Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of the Risty Mace and Shield props from the past.
The stunning conclusion.
What happens next will shock you. Yeah, last week was really fun, and you guys seem to really enjoy that deep dive, so we're going to do the rest of it starting now. Hey, in this episode, more shield action. I wrote that. I wrote a whole list of things to say.
More shield action.
So here is the disc for that shield. It's been sanded and primed a couple of times.
Nice looking disc.
It still needs a little more work, but it's at a pretty good point right now. For the outer ring on that, I'm cutting that again out of the same foam I used for the shield.
Probably
dome.
still have some of that blue foam
Let's see
around
here.
somewhere.
Yeah.
That piece from that.
Yeah, that exact piece.
And ended up with this.
Hey, I didn't film any of that.
Sanded a bunch and shaped to fit, hopefully, around that. I got a line there to line them up.
Those funky glasses.
Goes right around there. And then the dome should slide right up and meet
Oh, that's
the
nice.
inner lip.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Alright, the
Cut to
outer
2
ring
days later.
has been epoxied to the middle dome, and I've been skinning it with this polyurethane resin that I use in the different colors, and I'll sand it down the same way I did the dome. And then for the detail bits on the top of the dome here, I cut this out of 1/4-inch PVC. It's a foamed PVC.
I probably still have that chunk of foam PVC as well. That 1/4-inch
Pin
black.
in the middle of it so that I can keep
Bet I
it
have a
centered.
couple chunks of that left.
And then for the cross pieces there, I'm cutting these out of 1/8-inch PVC. It's the same material, it's just white.
Probably cut all those out on your
I cut out
scroll
the
saw.
circle piece
Oh,
at an
yeah.
angle so
Yeah.
that it
But that
will
was
fit
fun.
right like that. And then I can heat this piece and bend it down to shape. All 4 of these will be added to that. And then I'll fill in
All I can think watching all this
with
is
a
how
little bit
quickly
of
this would have been
Bondo,
done if I'd
sand
done it in
that
foam.
So
Yeah, you
this
wouldn't have had to
outer
vacuum
ring
form it.
has now
Right.
been filled in with the first layer of Bondo.
Oh, so much work.
Before doing that, I sanded down the plastic underneath it. And then now I'm just sanding lots of Bondo. So, you know, sanding block, respirator.
Good. I'm glad I was being
some
safe.
good old-fashioned elbow grease. Quick update, I've done a whole
And
bunch of things.
This
with
is
the
straight up
shield.
vlog.
Yeah.
Mostly I've
Like,
added these stripe pieces.
check
These are
in
foam
with the stuff I did
PVC
off
that I've
camera.
gone
Right.
With a heat
There's
gun,
like a day between
I
each
heated
cut.
them
Yeah.
until they could
It's like you
bend,
left the
and then I
camera there,
pressed
too.
them
Yeah.
into the
Why
shield,
move it?
until they cooled and they stay that shape.
This
They
is
were
a
then
perfect
glued
angle.
down to the face of the dome, and right now what I'm doing is filling in all the edges and seams that were created. First with Bondo for some of the bigger things, and now I'm going in with this glazing and
At least you got a
spot
lot
putty
of practice cleaning up
to
things.
fill in more
Like,
of the,
True. Lots of
smoothing out
practice
surfaces.
sanding.
Yeah.
This is pretty close to done. I know it looks really hideous, but my plan right now is to get it primed and sanded and then use this as a vacuum forming buck to create a shell so that the front of the shield will be all one solid piece.
Which was
So
a really
I got the
good
shield
idea
all
in theory.
primed up, ready to go, and I even
ambitious.
built, blam, a brand new vacuum form table that should be big enough to hold the shield.
I don't even
when
think I have that one
suddenly
anymore.
I realized
No,
that
you
I
might have
forgot
used
to
it for
build
the-
these
that
little
V
raised
mask
up bits on
you
the
did.
edge of the
Right.
shield.
And that might have been it.
So,
Yeah.
I cut these out of 1/8-inch PVC like I did with these strips right here. And I just glued them down to the edge, and now I'm filling in the edges with Bondo and a little bit of spot putty. And then once that's done, then I can vacuum form it.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to pause real quick. We used our oven to do this. I don't think anyone should do that. I wouldn't recommend anyone uses their oven or puts plastic in their oven for any reason. So don't do that. Bad Bill. Bad. But let's watch what happens. That is not even close to hot enough. Man.
All right.
Yeah, that plastic wasn't nearly hot enough, but it still goofed up the surface of my master.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
only got one try out of it, I think.
Yeah, just the heat for not just for the resin, but all the insulation foam under it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we didn't cover that. We just cut right to the next part.
And I guess it's good the plastic wasn't heated enough because that wouldn't have affected our oven as much.
That's true,
but-
yeah. And it probably, if the plastic was hotter, it probably would have goofed up the surface a lot worse, too.
Yeah.
This is a piece of PVC pipe that is the diameter of the handle, and I'm going to put it on the lathe to put these grooves in it. But then to do the pommel, I decided to add a little bit of material to it. So I glued one of these tiny cups onto it.
Pretty good idea.
And filled that
That's
with
clever.
some polyurethane resin. This is the same stuff that I use to make the cone for the spike. So this whole thing will get stuck in the lathe, and I'll put all the grooves in it and shape the pommel.
You're really into your lathe.
So here
I
is the
did use that
handle
little
now.
wood
I've
lathe
run
a
it
lot,
through the
didn't I?
lathe to put all these lines on it. And
I haven't used it in a
the
while.
pommel piece, which is just that polyurethane resin, is now the...
I couldn't have got one shot of the lathe. I talked about it. It's like this video, for some reason, I was like, don't show anything happening. Just show right afterwards.
Yeah, I think at this point you didn't enjoy filming during because
Right.
there was so many unknown frustrations.
Yeah.
Like with vacuum forming and
This might have been my first real tutorial as well.
yes.
Also, in this shot, if you look at the Shield vacuum form, you can see just how uneven the surface is. I had to do so much work to fix that.
nice shape that I want it to be. I've also put these pieces together, and I've got my threaded rod there that will attach this to the back of the shield. The back of the shield is a big piece of 1/4 inch MDF that I've cut into a circle, and then all of these pieces are going to simulate planks. So I've cut them out of 1/4 inch MDF,
It's very
and I've
cute.
cut these grooves into
I think it
them
looks great.
that will make them look like wooden planks. The functional parts of this are T-nuts that I've JB welded into place.
All right.
These pieces will get glued down with some wood glue.
It's going to be durable, that's for sure.
Example, this piece here lines up just like that, and the handle will screw into it just like that, all the way in. So all of these will get attached to this piece right here, which is the vacuum formed front of the shield. While we made a lot of progress
Which I don't want to talk about because it turned out very badly.
on the shield in this episode, we still have a lot more work to do. So we'll keep doing that in the next episode.
Which came out the next day, remember? The very next day.
More shield action!
That's what I said last time.
Right now,
There we go.
I've got the styrene shell, and it's been loosely glued in there so that it won't go anywhere, but I am going to pull that out later. But what I'm doing is this edge from the vacuum form pull needs to be bent up to contour around the rest of the shield.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm heating it with my heat gun until it becomes pliable, and then just
Rest in
bending
peace,
it
heat
up.
gun.
Yeah,
Glove,
we still have
because
it.
this gets
Yeah,
really
it
hot.
doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work.
We're thinking about turning it into a space blaster.
That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Using some kind of project.
This is working just fine. Look at that.
Well, I cracked the shield back open, so this is the inside of the shell. I cleaned up the edge of this, I just trimmed it down to the back of the shield. This is expanding foam, this stuff right here
X30.
I got from Tap Plastics. I put a teeny little bit of it in there because I usually tend to overdo it and put in too much foam, and this
We
stuff
still
isn't
do.
exactly cheap. So
I had the
instead of
opposite problem
overdoing
with
it, using too
Dragonstone. I
much
didn't have
and then having
enough.
to trim it
Aw.
off later. I'm going to add a little bit of it at a time and build this up so that I have the interior of the shield filled with a rigid foam. So here's the outer
And there
shell
it
of
is.
our shield. This is the expanding foam. I put like 3 or 4 layers in there, and it is now super rigid. Like it's not going to indent at all. I'm going to clean this side up. To get this level, I use this rasp to scrape it down so that I can put the back right into it, just like that.
All right.
It's that easy.
That.
Our shield is all attached.
A day
I can
later.
start cleaning it up now. This back edge needs to be cleaned up, and most importantly, the surface of this needs to be cleaned up like a lot. It got pretty mangled when I vacuum formed it, so I've got a
Yeah.
lot of work to do. Mostly, I need to sand down a lot of these sort of wrinkled parts. I'm using this power hand sander for a lot of it, and then a sanding block for the rest.
To get a better shape, I should have vacuum formed it out of something more durable. That would have been the way to do it. Both the insulation foam and the very thin veneer of urethane resin we brushed on there are both susceptible to warping when they get hot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why normally vacuum formed blocks are made out of like MDF or hydrocal, something like that. I didn't know that at the time. That might have been the first time I vacuum formed something.
Yeah, and you didn't go small.
Sure didn't.
And then files to get into these grooves.
You know what?
and
I
everything.
vacuum formed my
The
Phantom
other detail
helmet
parts on this
before
shield
this.
are going to
You
be
did?
some
Yeah.
rivets.
That was very small.
And
That
I'm
was
going
like
to use these tacks
that
right
big.
here, these furniture tacks or furniture nails. Those will get embedded in there. And then there's these big screw heads that go on these parts right here. So what my plan is for that is I've made a screw head
Nice.
shape at the end of this dowel, so it's nice.
I better
and
use my
round.
scroll saw
I
for
just
that.
carved in that with a little bit of a coping saw action
Oh.
in this little file there. I filed it out.
Coping saw is basically an unpowered scroll saw. I was close.
Will get pushed into some clay, and then I'll cast little pieces out of plastic.
This is still such
in
a
the
great
clay.
technique.
It's a
Push
simple
molds?
little-
Yeah, for if you just need a
Then
couple
once
of
I have
copies of
4 of
something.
those, I can stick them on the sides here.
Actually showed me
Been
doing
a
work
couple
there.
hours. I've been bondoing and sanding a lot of the sort of warped bits on this pole that I did, and it's starting to look pretty good. I've got a little more spot puttying to do. I've been sanding up around the edge.
So frustrating.
It's starting to
'cause
get there.
I did all
Pretty
of this
soon
work
I'll
on
be
the
able to
master,
time this
and then I
sand
do it all
and
again on the pull.
See where I have to go from there. I've also done on the back here, I added this ring. This is where the handle will attach. That goes right in there, and it fits nice and snug.
You know what I'm curious
Once I'm ready
about?
to paint this-
Pause real quick. I know I have the documentation on this. I want to find out how much I charge for this. How
Oh man.
I'm gonna guess for the shield and mace together, less than $1,000. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Which nowadays I would probably charge, I don't even know, a lot more than that. But
Well, like if this was all made out of foam and had a little more like foamy roughness to it, like and it was made a lot
Mhm.
faster, like it's a different kind of product.
yeah.
But this stuff is like hard surface
Yeah.
Like- beauty shots. It's like it turned out really well.
It did, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and
Very
Definitely,
good.
definitely
permanently,
undercharge
but
myself. I'll
now
check at the end of
I'm
this.
gonna wait. And then the outer edge of this, I've gone in before I was bending all of the edges up. Now it's completely flush. It's been epoxied in place, and I went around, filled it in with a little more epoxy, and then sanded it down and then rounded it. So this whole edge right here is nice and smooth.
All right.
Yeah, that's it. This thing is getting pretty close to ready for some paint.
That's very
The
exciting.
shield is mostly done now, so in the next episode, we'll turn our attention back to the mace, working on the shaft and putting the whole thing together.
All
What are we
right.
doing in this episode? I'll tell you what, we're going to put a mace together. All right.
All right.
You gotta get the couple of frames of me looking back down at my script.
So originally for the,
Right at the end.
shaft of the mace, I was going to go with an aluminum hex rod, but that was kind of hard to come by, so I've decided to go with a slightly more low.
I was thinking lacrosse stick. Actually, I remember the problem. I remember. So I grew up playing lacrosse, and I know that the shaft of a lacrosse stick is a hexagon. However, they're not. They don't have symmetric sides.
Oh.
Yeah, the cross section it's longer on, I think, 2 of the sides.
So that was the original plan.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Not perfectly
Didn't work.
symmetrical.
Tech version. This is an 1.1/8" dowel that I picked up for a couple bucks at the hardware store, and I'm gonna go ahead and just bevel the part that I need, and the rest of it.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Sure does.
So I measured out.
Still have that,
the
Sweet Harbor Freight belt
increments here.
sander
I put
though.
a piece of tape around that and took the tape off, measured out the lines, put the tape back on so that I could get these nice lines.
Sure would have been nice to show that.
And then I used the edge of a board to draw these nice parallel lines.
Actually, in the background is a part of a drill press that we no longer own.
It looks pretty good.
Another Harbor Freight
Going all the way
purchase.
Yeah.
that-
A tabletop
to bevel
drill
it,
press.
spun like this,
because
it
I don't
didn't
really
spin
have a lot
straight.
of material to take off, and I've got a little wiggle room. I'm just gonna cinch it down in my bench vise here and use a belt sander and just sort of run the belt sander over it until I hit the lines, just barely hit the lines, and then I'll use a hand sander to get it finished off. The note about safety with the belt sander, this thing is loud, so I've got earplugs. It kicks up a lot of dust, so I have my respirator or a dust mask will be fine, and it can also shoot out a bunch of shards of wood, so I will protect my eyes.
Very good. Very safety conscious.
See you on the other side.
The shot of me actually working on it. All right.
Man.
And just like that, after
Piece of
a little
cake.
bit of belt sanding and then some
A little
hand
bit.
sanding
Probably like 3 hours of work, 3 or 4
we've
hours.
got a fairly passable hexagon shaft. Alright, the shaft has been added to the mace head. The end of this shaft is threaded to the bolt on this top
Smart.
cone right here.
It was really sturdy,
And glued
like
in
with the
place with
fiberglassing
some
and everything.
weld.
Like
This
if you
cross
deck someone
piece
with
right
that,
here is cut out of 1/4 inch.
I don't think it would
MDF,
break.
and then glued in place both around the shaft with some wood glue, and then the outer part with some epoxy. So that is not going anywhere. This piece is going to go over that. It'll go just like this. I still have some trimming to do. It's going to fit right in place, so I have to trim that edge a bit. That was cut off of my second dome right here.
I got that to fit really
Yeah.
snugly. Look at that.
Bottom plate that I sort of stuck on there has been epoxied in place, and there's a little bit of a seam, but I'm going to fill that in with Bondo.
So can the handle still be
Right now,
unscrewed
this thing is looking
for
really
travel?
good.
No, it's there permanently now?
Yeah.
Next
Absolutely.
is this piece
Must have
that
been
I
painting
put
the ship.
together. This is 2 pieces
Probably,
of 1/4
yeah, I don't
inch
remember.
MDF that
I didn't
I'm
film
putting
any of that.
together. The inner piece I cut at an angle with my
Scroll saw?
and this is going to go just like that on there, and there are a couple of, I think 4 sort of faceted faces that will get glued to that. I think probably out of styrene. Then this piece here is going to slide on for the sort of tapered thing that goes right here.
You
The
know,
plan right now is
a
to
tapered
take this
thing.
PVC pipe and embed it in a thicker thing of
All right.
resin, of
This-
plastic resin.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, getting some good footage in there. Making custom shapes that you can fill with urethane resin for churning is super, super handy. I got it pretty close to the dimensions I needed with those cups, and then I just had to remove a little bit of material. It's less wasteful. I would totally do this again if I was making something like that.
Yeah, and if you're looking for more footage of this kind of work, our Lego shield and sword build, for the sword build did some lathe work like that. And I'm sure we got much more footage of
Yeah,
that process.
I'm glad you remembered that.
And lathe that part out because it's kind of got this gradual taper that goes to it.
Little
I put
streamers.
this dowel
Yeah.
in the middle of it so that I can put that on the lathe, and then after I've cast the piece, lathed it, I can pop this out. That comes out, and then the whole piece will be able to slide.
I think
onto
that
the
was
shaft.
really clever. Go me.
Fingers crossed. I think it'll work. Well, there we go. This is the dowel that was in the center of that.
It did
I
come
cut
out.
the ends
It
and
did.
pulled it out, and I've got a piece now that should slide right on the shaft for my mace. So I filled in the seam between the 2 pieces of the globe that I
Very good.
attached, and I'm also working on the detail faceted parts of this round part that goes on the shaft. These little pieces here are styrene, this thin, really durable plastic. I just cut them out and glued them to the side of this, and then the gap between the wood and the plastic has been filled in with Bondo. I'm just sanding that down
Very
and
exciting.
shaping it.
I was just thinking, I made this really durable because we didn't mold and cast it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a reason to. I only needed the one. So you could totally make this from less durable materials. Maybe not turn a piece of urethane for that. If you're going to mold it and cast it out of urethane.
With this little file and some sandpaper. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing again with this spot putty to fill in any little gaps, seal the side of this MDF, and fill in the gap between the 2 pieces of the MDF.
We could have used that
update,
super
I've
glue.
put all
Super
of the
glue is
pieces
great for
together.
sealing
I'm really,
MDF.
really stoked. This piece here has been glued down. I put a bunch of epoxy inside the shaft and put it on there. these pieces of cardboard are holding it centered because there's a little bit of a gap in there. This piece down here has been epoxied to the acrylic, and then because this is wood and the shaft is wood, I put some wood glue, and that's deep inside. You can't see that anymore. The Bondo around this seam here has been filled in, and I went over it again with some of that air drying filler, and that will get sanded down. And then the butt here, this pommel, I didn't videotape it, but this was lathed like I did this piece here, except this is obviously much tinier. I spun this around my lathe, and it's just a hunk of plastic like the other one. Then I put a bolt in the middle of it and glued it and screwed it down to the shaft.
Excellent.
This overlap here will get ground down with a Dremel or something, and then sanded flush, and then all the pieces will be together. I can start finishing this thing. So the mace is all assembled, and the last thing I have to put on there are these little rivets.
Yeah.
What I've done is taken these furniture tacks, and these are bronze. The material doesn't really matter. I just got these because they were the biggest ones. What I've done is I put them in my power drill, and I'll spin this and hit it with a sanding sponge.
This is something I definitely do whenever I get the opportunity. Anytime you have to spin something cylindrical around, and you can put it in a lathe or a drill, makes everything so much quicker.
Now that the mace is all put together, we can start painting these things.
Yeah!
In the next episode.
Yeah!
All right.
Yeah!
All right.
Field are just about ready for finishing and painting. So why don't you follow along and we'll get that stuff done.
Is this the last episode?
2 more, I think.
Man.
I think.
Here is the mace.
Look at that.
It's been primed once, and I'm going over it with a sanding sponge.
I am very happy with how that
but
looks.
It looks pretty good.
Such a cool shape.
Yeah.
Love the spikes. Love that the spikes aren't straight. There's like a little bit of a little curve.
And the final coat of color, and then it will be done. Yes. Bam. All right. I went.
That's looking really good too.
The shield, which
I hit all my crimes.
It's going to need a lot of sanding and some more work, but it's getting
I hit
there.
most of my crimes.
Here is my big screw head with the screw glued to it, and I'm going to attach it permanently now with a little bit of glue. So I drilled a hole for it, and I'm going to put some glue on there and then screw it in. Same thing with these guys here. These are the furniture tacks that I used, and again I've sanded a little spot so that the glue has a little bit of something to grab onto. I'll glue it up and I'll pop that in there, and then I believe all of the pieces
and then we can start painting.
I made a lot of progress on the painting.
Whoa,
and I'll
hold
give
on.
you a quick rundown of what I've done so far. The sort of base coat for this bronze-ish color, is this Rust-Oleum.
Oh, that's a nice paint. I like that one a lot.
Coat stuff that I like a lot.
Dude.
It's just a rattle
Is it
can
enamel?
spray on. So I did that first, and then
I
I
have
clear
no
coated
idea.
it with a matte clear coat. And then I painted the head of this. So I masked off the bottom half, and the head of the mace was done with this stuff that I really like. It's by Model Masters. It's called Metallizer Lacquer.
Ooh.
This is
I haven't used that in a while.
color.
It's really good stuff.
The way that works is it goes in my
This is when you're getting
airbrush
into your
here.
lacquers.
Look at my first
And I
airbrush.
sprayed the coat
Aw,
on
is
like
that
a
one from
really
Harbor Freight?
heavy coat.
I got
just
it with a
one coat.
Husky
And
air
you let
compressor.
it dry for 10
Okay.
minutes and
On
then
Black
you buff
Friday.
it with a cloth. And it gets this sort of nice metal sheen to it.
That is a
and
nice
that gets
metal sheen.
sealed with this sealer, again with the airbrush, specifically for the metallizer stuff. After that, I masked off this section here and sprayed it with this gold spray paint. And I clear coated that, again with a matte clear coat.
It's not too different than how I would do something now, except I'd use like maybe Tamiya paints.
Or all clad.
Or all-clad paints, yeah. Probably wouldn't use the spray paint. For the gold, something like an all-clad, their antique brass. So good. That metallizer sealer is still really good, too.
I love that satin finish on that.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
It works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks nice.
And then these rings around the base of the spikes there, I brushed on a little bit of this graphite metallic just to give it a little bit of a different sheen.
It is a little
and
different. That's
slightly
nice.
darker color for the mace head. And that's all of the coloring on the mace. Now I'm going to go over this and dirty it up a little bit. Put a little bit of weathering on it. I made
but I'm not going to show you.
progress painting the shield too.
This is our old
The front
paint
side
room.
of the shield got hit with this sort of what's called ivory silk, kind of a off-white color, and that's going to be for these sections right here. The rest of these will get painted over, but this has base coat. Just hit the whole thing with that. And the back side of it, I hit with this darker, just a flat sort of a brownish color, and that'll be for the wood here. The outer bit will get masked off and then sprayed the gold. That'll be this gold here that I put on the handle. The handle that will go right there.
Gold looks really nice.
This
Does
ring
look
right
nice.
here, I'll hit with the gold, and then the grip on here, I use this just a sort of lighter brown. It's more of a tan, more of a leather color. So that I did that first, and then I masked it off, and I sprayed this other part with the gold, and the whole thing got a little
Those
bit
look
of
nice.
this flat. See, we got this flat clear coat right there. So yeah, there we go.
We don't
The
use a
shield
lot of
makes
spray
some
paints
progress.
anymore. In fact, when we
So
moved
here's
to
our
this
shield.
shop,
I
we got
masked
rid
it
of
all
a
off,
bunch
and
of
this
them.
Yeah.
outer ring is what's going to get painted gold. You can see on the back, I've also masked off the wooden area, and fortunately, because I have it all masked off like that, and I have my spinning tray, I can, in theory, paint one side of it, and then flip it over to paint the other.
Seems
Again
reasonable
with
to
your
me.
cool spinny spray.
Oh, yeah. I actually made that Lazy Susan
So here's
from pieces of MDF and some like skateboard bearings that I had laying around. Couldn't splurge the $10 to buy a Lazy Susan. Nope, I had to make one myself.
the shield with the gold trim is under there, I promise. Now I've got to do these cross pieces on the top of it, so I've masked off all of the
Look at that overlaying
Yeah.
footage
whole
while you're
bunch of
talking.
masking tape.
All
And then
right.
I'm just going to use this sort of.
This guy doesn't know it, but he's gonna be really big on
leather-looking
YouTube
brown
soon.
spray paint to paint the whole top. This part will be a darker brown. but
Actually,
I'll
a
just-
quick side note. I was going through some old photos. The first PAX that we went to in 2008, I believe.
The Penny Arcade Expo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had never done anything cosplay related at all in our entire lives. And in that album, there were a handful of costumes that I took photos of. And I was really excited to see those costumes. Just people, I don't know any of them. It's just really amazing to think like 10 years after that, we would have not only started cosplaying, but like had a pretty sizable impact on the community.
Yeah, I remember seeing those costumes and being like, those are cool. I didn't think I want to do that. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It took a while before we got into it.
Over that later. We made a lot of progress in this episode, but we're not quite done yet. In the next episode, we get everything wrapped up and we get everything painted. This is the last.
When I said I wrote these things, I wrote a thing that was like, say something for episode 1, say something for episode 2.
And it was all probably one video file.
Yeah, one video file. You'll notice I'm wearing the same thing. Good stuff, good stuff.
Mason Shield episode, so why don't you buckle up and join us, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
I'm buckled up.
Alright, the
that looks
mace
awesome.
is done. After applying all of the color, I went over and did
Man,
a
that
layer
looks so
of weathering. So basically what I did
I think it was a
I used
little heavy-handed on the rub and buff, but I think everyone's heavy-handed with rub and buff when they start.
the black acrylic paint for all the dark areas to make it look dirty. And I just use a normal brush. So for example, this area right here, I would fill that in with acrylic paint with like a lot of it, and then just use a paper towel to wipe most of it away. Same thing around these rivets, around the base of the spikes.
Well, that would have been really
here.
great to show.
Yeah.
Just to make it look dirty and grimy.
Weathering before
Mostly-
and after is great.
Most of
for
the
Yeah.
paint I
footage.
use gets wiped off.
Yeah.
I did the same thing on this handle. You can see that the butt of it is kind of dirty. All of the creases and indents have all been grimed up with a little bit of dirt. For the highlights on the mace, I used this Rub and Buff Silver Leaf, and that's to simulate places where the finish is rubbed off and the bare metal is showing. So the tips of the spikes, a lot of these edges.
I think the individual like lines of weathering I did on there are a bit much, a bit heavy-handed. I would have liked to have done like some dry brushing, some really thin streaks of scratches and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little cartoony.
A little
but
bit, yeah.
Edges
it's
along
fine.
the
It is
shaft
an
here,
anime
are all
weapon.
touched with a little bit of this, and really a little bit because this goes a very long way. Usually I'll just use a paper towel to apply it. I'll put a little bit on the paper towel and then just sort of, as the name would suggest, rub and buff it on the final surface. After that, the whole thing got a good couple layers of clear coat, and I let it dry. And that's it. Voila! It is done.
I probably use that
I've done all of the
metallizer sealer.
base colors for the shield. Most of this is just spray paint that I've masked off and sprayed on. So I've got a gold metallic spray paint. I've got this off-white spray paint.
You'll still
I've got
see
a
some
tan,
lumpiness
and
on the
I've got a
shield
dark
right there.
Yeah.
And the seams on them are only okay because I just used some normal masking tape, but that's fine. I planned it that way. What I'm going to do, and of course I've clear coated this a lot, and let it sit overnight, so it's good to go. I'm going to start weathering this, and the first pass that I'm going to do with my airbrush and a dark brown, kind of like a gradient, dirty.
This is how we hide our crimes,
I'll just
everyone.
go over all of the seams and the areas where dust and dirt would accumulate.
Really
And,
soft
kinda
gradients
go
can help
nuts
you
with
get
it.
away with a lot.
So
Yeah.
that's the next step. Got my little turntable here,
As
so I
the
can spray,
Probius
spin,
build,
and have
a lot
good
of
time at it.
airbrush gradients.
So here's the
there it
first
is.
layer of airbrushing.
I very nearly showed you how it was done. Very nearly showed you.
That dark brown, and it's pretty good. I think I'm gonna let it sit and maybe go over a couple more spots, but then I'll clear coat it and just start doing some of the detail weathering with some darker colors.
At this point, you've already
black
learned that
acrylics.
clear coat in
'Cause
between
right now it looks really
different kinds of
soft.
paint applications
That's
is a
what
good
you get
idea.
when you use an airbrush.
Just so you wouldn't
Well,
mess with them
I'm
at
pretty
the
much
hand.
done with the painting.
Wow, I
on the
really
shield
grind that
here.
thing up. It looks cool.
I've gone over, after doing the airbrushing, and all of the seams I hit with a bunch of black paint, just brushed in there. And all of the battle damage, the scratches and gouges and stuff, are all just painted on there with black. And then I hit it with some of this silver rub and buff. That's my favorite thing ever. And I touched up
It's
some
always
of the edges.
whenever you discover rub and buff, it is your favorite thing ever for a while.
Yeah.
With some silver, gave it a lot of battle damage, made it look all beat up. The back of it got more of the same, some more battle damage type things here. All of the seams on the wood, I did put a bunch of black paint in there, so it looked a little bit dirty. Now it's time to attach the handle. I've got this T-nut in there, so I can just screw this thing in place. So I'm going to glue that down so it doesn't go anywhere. It'll be there forever, I hope. And I've got to attach the strap. And
Can't
then
make it
that's
easy
Then
to
this thing is
take
done.
apart.
No, or ship.
No.
Time for the last
Good luck
step.
with this, Jessica.
The strap. This guy right here is cut from an old belt.
Oh, it's
Yay.
perfect.
So never throw away old belts. They're always useful.
That was
I
from
think-
our steampunk
I
pile.
poked some
I think we
holes in
still
here
have
with
that
a
buckle.
drill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a drilled press. And the
You
corresponding
don't throw away a buckle like that.
T-nuts that I have
That's still
in
something
there
we do though, is
are for these
go to
guys.
a
And
thrift
these
store,
are
get
just
some
carriage
old
bolts. I
belts
got them
that are
just
real
kind of
leather
wood
and
rivets.
take
And
them
I
apart
painted
and
the
use them.
tops of them gold. So I can just go ahead and thread these guys in here. Like that. All the way around.
But I'm not going to show you that either. Oh,
Is this
just
like
a
the-
reveal?
I think it is.
Yeah!
Whoa!
We're done! I'm really happy that,
That
they're
looks
all
great.
Look
done.
how clean that shirt is. I still have that shirt, and it is almost self-aware. It's
I
so
think
dirty.
this was before it was your shop shirt, so you're
Yeah,
like wearing a nice shirt for your.
I had my brown hoodie was my shop shirt, which I also still have, but at some point they switched, and the orange one became the shop's hoodie. They were both almost self-aware. They're so gross.
I had a lot of fun building them, and hopefully you guys had a lot of fun watching and learned a couple things. So maybe you can
I
go build
did.
something of your own.
Yeah, those look amazing.
I'm gonna go get these things packed up and sent out to Jessica, and hopefully we'll see her at the next convention with the giant maze and the giant shield. If you wanna
We did, except she never made the costume, but we did see her at Emerald City Comic Con that year.
know more about the builds that I'm doing, you can follow me on Twitter at Chinbeard. You can check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/punishedprops.
And of course, do all your social plugs at the end of one of the 10 videos, right?
And you're watching this on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/punishedprops. If you want to see more builds that I'll be doing in the future, then go ahead and subscribe. If you don't want to see more builds, then screw off. No, seriously, stick around.
Wow, that was spicy for Bill.
That was really good. Okay, let me really quickly, before we end this, find out how much I charged for that thing. There. I was right. I charged $900 for the two of those. It took me probably a month to make, and I definitely didn't make any money. Oh, wow, that's amazing. At some point, we should go over this list. There's...
No, I think it'll make you sad seeing how
maybe.
little you charged for the work you did.
Yeah.
There was also a lot of learning, though,
There
in those
was.
processes. But I think by the time you did the Risty stuff, that you had a pretty good process down.
I charged $1,500 for that Halo sniper rifle. And I would spend $1,500 to get it back right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was really fun. Thanks for going through that with me, Britt.
You're
Since it was, I
welcome.
think, your first time watching it.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I did watch it, I have no memory. I just remember checking in with you during the process of that build. You'd be down there late nights
Yep. Yeah. Oh,
working
yeah.
on it, and I'm really impressed at how it turned out.
Yeah. And all things considered, the jankiness of the videos and the techniques I used turned out great. Turned out really, really great. And the client was very happy with it.
Yeah.
That'll wrap it up, gang. Thanks so much. Hope you have a great weekend. Thank you so much for the support. Please keep that up. We need you guys. We'll see you next week with more fun and shenanigans from the shop.